Welcome to Australian Kadampa Stories, where we have the opportunity to hear about the spiritual lives of people practicing Kadampa Buddhism here in Australia. I'm your host, Colleen Isaacs, and today I get to speak with Gen Kelsing Annie, who is our resident teacher in Brisbane. Now, Gen Annie is well loved for her kindness, for her caring nature, and I've known Gen Annie for a number of years, but this is the first time that we're having an in-depth conversation. So I'm really looking forward to this. Welcome, Gen Annie. Thank you so much for joining.
Thank you for inviting me, Colleen.
Now you're in sunny Queensland. How's the weather for you today?
Oh, it's cool today. Yeah, having a bit of a cool spell, but it's, pretty nice. It's always fairly nice here.
Yeah, it is sunny Queensland after all.
That's right, yes, yeah. I'm glad because I really like the warmth.
Good. Now we'll get to this, but I know that you haven't always been in Brisbane, so you can tell us about how you got to being the resident teacher in Brisbane. But if we could maybe go back in time a little bit, and can you tell us how you first found Kadampa Buddhism? Like, were you in Australia? Were you overseas? What was life like for you at the time?
Yeah, so I was in Perth, living in Perth, and someone close to me was suffering from depression. And so I was kind of always on the lookout for things that might help them. And I remember I went out from work on lunchtime, was wandering around this sort of, spiritual shop, and there was a little notice on the board, and it had a notice about a series of classes that were coming up called 8 Steps to Happiness, which is, of course, the title of one of Venerable Geshe-la's books. And it was an 8-week course, sounded pretty good. And so I went to my friend and said, I've seen this course, it's 8 weeks, maybe we should go. And we sort of decided we'd make a night out each week. So we kind of meet after work, we go out for dinner, then we go to the centre, go to the class, and then, when we could go home and have a chat about it on the way. So that's sort of what started it.
So publicity, another resident teacher who got into Dharma because of the publicity fairies.
Yeah, I mean, it was it was a notice on a board in the shop. So yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, wow.
And I think that's the way lots of people find Dharma. Maybe now more social media as well, but that didn't exist back then. It was sort of late 1990s, and social media wasn't the thing at all.
It's just amazing the number of people, very devoted to this tradition or senior in this tradition who, picked up a leaflet in a shop, and that was the start of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, beautiful. So you went along to the course, 8 Steps to Happiness. Of course, our book now is the new 8 Steps to Happiness, but, one class per week for 8 weeks. And then did it click with you immediately or take a little bit of time? Like, what was that experience like?
Well, I guess I wasn't really going for me. I was interested. I'd had a lot of exposure during my kind of upbringing to different spiritual traditions. My father, I would say, was a spiritual explorer or a seeker, was looking for a spiritual path. And so he kind of went through many different religions. Like, seemed to be a different one every year. He was involved in some unusual things during the course of his life. And so I was kind of open to the ideas, but I wasn't really looking for anything. And I think the very first class we went along to, probably the main thing I took away from that was that if we focus on ourselves, we'll be less happy than if we focus on others. And after the class, I didn't really think very much about it until one day that week I was driving to work. I was stuck in a traffic jam and was pretty grumpy about the fact that everyone was in my way, and there was this traffic jam. And so I was sitting in my car, I was on my own, just sort of grumbling away to myself. And this sort of almost like a little voice said to me, what was it you learned at that class? And so I was like, oh yeah, if I think about myself, I'll be unhappy. If I think about other people, I'll be happier. So I thought, who am I thinking about? I was like, oh yeah, me. Here I am in my traffic jam, and all these other people are basically in my way. So I just thought, well, I'll try this, And so I just sort of looked around me and realised actually there were quite a lot of other people stuck in the traffic jam. I wasn't the only one. And I just started to consider their lives, like thinking about where they were trying to get to. I was trying to get to work. Where were they trying to go? Were they trying to help someone? What were their lives like? And as I did that, I could feel my mind getting more peaceful. And so I was still stuck in the traffic. I don't think we'd moved at all. But I wasn't unhappy anymore. I was actually quite happy sitting there, And I thought, gosh, that was incredible. Like, all I've done is change my mind. And my whole experience of this situation has completely changed. It's not a situation that I'm unhappy in anymore. Actually, I feel very peaceful and happy. And I thought, I think that those Buddhists might be onto something, So, of course, each week you get a little morsel to work with. And, I just thought there's some little gems in all of that. So I just try to take something away each week, work with it, and thought, yeah, that's lovely. But after that, we didn't really kind of follow up for a while. That was sort of it. We did our 8-week course. That was it, done. And, life carries on. And then things get difficult for one reason or another. And I thought, you know what? I think I'm going to go back to those classes. So I sort of dipped in and out like that, probably for 2 or 3 years, maybe more. But kept going back, yeah. And it was quite interesting because my whole family ended up going. So I was married at the time. I had 2 stepchildren, and all of us would go to the classes. And because the first class we'd been to was called 8 Steps to Happiness, we called them happiness classes.
Oh,
it was really sweet. Like my whole family, even my family abroad, they'd be like, oh, you're going out tonight. Where are you going? Oh, we're going to happiness classes. That's just what we called it, and it was lovely.
So beautiful.
I know, because that's of course what you get. Yeah. So I dipped in and out for quite a number of years, probably, and then started kind of just practicing a little bit more, and also wanting to join in and help a bit. So the teacher at the time needed some help with doing some publicity, actually, and my husband at the time was a graphic designer, so I kind of knew a little bit about how to work some of the packages, and so I offered to help. I offered to help the teacher to do that, and so that was my sort of first way of helping a little bit at the centre, and it kind of went from there.
Well, it obviously grew quite a lot from there. Yeah.
It did, yeah.
Now, selfishly, as a mother, I have to ask you, how old were your stepchildren at the time that they were coming to happiness classes?
I think they were maybe 10, 11, 12,
Nice.
that kind of age.
Yeah.
And, it was on a school night, so they'd often be quite tired. So they generally we'd sit on the floor together, and maybe they were even a bit smaller than that sometimes, some of the time. But anyway, we'd sit on the floor together, they'd sit one either side, and they generally sit through the class. They quite like that. But when it got to the meditation at the end, they'd usually just both lie down, put their heads in my lap, and just go to sleep. So it's quite sweet.
That is really sweet. Yeah.
Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So you started doing publicity or helping out with the, graphic design. Um, Obviously things were working for you, but you had a very, busy, full life, I'm
Yeah.
guessing too.
Yeah.
Did you join a study program? Like when did you kind of fully feel like you were jumping in and yeah, this is my path?
Yeah, I think there were a couple of things. I wanted to join in. I wanted to study a bit more in depth because of my family situation. I had a full-time job at the time. I was a part-time mum, had the kids part of the time and my stepchildren. Um, and obviously, all the kind of challenges that go along with juggling all of that. Um, so I wanted to join the foundation program, and the only way I could do it at the time really was by correspondence. So I started as a correspondence student, and there's a way that you're ideally meant to do correspondence classes, follow the same structure. I was almost never able to do that. And although I've always felt like I'm not doing it right, I remember very clearly thinking, I don't mind. I don't care if I'm not doing it right. Like, I want to be able to do it right at some point in time, like the way Geshe explains, to structure the class so you get the most out of it. But my life just didn't allow for it. So I just decided I'm just going to do it any which way I can. And hopefully later on, I'll be able to do it as, Geshe intends us to do it. But for now, it's better to do it than not to do it. And so, I did FP like that. And sometimes I'd listen to classes on my bike going to work or on the bus, wherever it would fit. I'd fit it in. I just really wanted to do it. So I did foundation program by correspondence. We had a GP class close to where I lived, so I'd try and join in with that most weeks. And yeah, it went from there. I started on FP. Eventually had the opportunity to do TTP, and just have never stopped with a study program. So I think I've been on a study program, either FP or TTP, for 20 years now. Yeah, so it's been wonderful. Never stop.
Isn't it so exciting to know, like all things going well, I'm going to be on a study program for the rest of my life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like that's amazing, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess, Buddhahood is the path of no more learning, and until then there's learning to be done. So we keep learning, both formally and informally, of course.
Yeah, and how lucky too that we have, so many options. Yeah, when life changes, you can do FP, you can do TTP, you can go back to FP, you can do GP, right? Depending on how your life changes, you don't have to stop studying. And now with doing things online, we have even more options to continue studying if life is happening. Yeah,
which it does.
Oh, that's great. Did you have a favorite practice early in the day, early on? Yeah, a favorite practice where you were like, that is making my life easier.
I think I enjoyed like heart jewel. Like I understood that was our daily spiritual food, and the first international festival I went to, Geshe taught Maharudra Tantra, which was heart jewel practice in conjunction with Guru Samadhi Buddha Haruka. And so I took that instruction to heart and really tried to put that into practice. So I think that one's, that's just, like I say, daily spiritual food. Yeah, so loved it from the beginning and still love it.
And what was it like going to your first international festival? Because coming from Australia, you're like, oh my gosh, there are so many Kadampas.
Well, it was interesting because I actually had been to an Australian festival before that. In 2004, there was a High Yoga Tantra empowerment in Sydney, and I went to that. So that was the first kind of big event that I'd been to. And I was so moved by it. I mean, I didn't understand anything throughout the festival. The kind of conditions, it started off at Bondi at a hotel, which was kind of quite nice. And then we moved up to the Blue Mountains to this camp that I think probably should have had no more than 200 people. And there were about 400 of us. And it just rained. It rained and rained and rained. And everything flooded. The toilets got blocked, the showers stopped working, everyone was completely drenched. But all through these kind of daily disasters, I mean, they built a moat around the dining tent, and we had a plank to walk across into the dining tent. There was so much water. It's hilarious. But all through these disasters, what really struck me was everyone just stayed happy. Like something else would go wrong and everyone would laugh. And I came away from that festival, I couldn't really remember any of the teachings, but what I felt really deeply in my heart, more maybe from the example of the people than directly from the teachings themselves, although probably a bit of both. But what I really felt in my heart was that peace is possible. And it was such an optimistic feeling to come away with. So then going to an international festival, I kind of had this joy about going. Like I was just going to like do everything. Like go to every meditation, go to every teaching, go to every puja, like join in, volunteer. I was like fully
do all the jobs.
I was just, yeah. So I just loved it. Absolutely loved it. Anyone would think I've been going for years because it's bouncing around and chatting to everybody and, so yeah, it was amazing. And so just incredible to meet so many people from all over the world who from many different walks of life, but all of whom are trying to practice Kadampa, and you can see what the effect is in people's lives. And when you get a big group of people together, like you do at the national and the international events, it's just incredible that many people can stay happy and peaceful, and there's no disagreements or there's no problems. It all just works through people's good heart, joining in, volunteering, and just trying to keep a happy mind. So it's just, yeah, they're just so inspiring. And so that first one, I was like fully in. Yeah, very happy to be there.
They are amazing, these big events. You're right, because these things that we think normally are so important, and to a degree they are, but it's possible for a couple of hundred people to be happy with the toilets blocked and with no water.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be an obstacle.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing. When did you start teaching? How did that happen?
I don't really remember. I mean, it's all a bit vague in terms of timing. I'm not very good with that kind of thing.
I don't mean like month and year necessarily.
Yeah, I don't even remember which year it was particularly. I guess I'd been on FP for a little while. I think I was still on correspondence at that stage. And the resident teacher at the time, this is still in Perth, called me up and said to me, I'd like to ask, would you teach a branch? And I said, yes. And then I said, no, no. She's like, I think I heard yes.
Your first answer was the right one.
Yeah. I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't do that. But she's quite insistent. She said, I'm going with a yes. So will you give it a go? I was like, oh, all right then. So I started and I tried, and it's not something that comes naturally to me. I'm not someone who enjoys speaking in front of people. I never have done. So yeah, it was a leap of faith to some degree. But I felt like I'd been given something so precious, and really I needed to share that with other people if I could. And so in the end, I decided just try. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I haven't heard you teach too often, Annie, but I have over the years, and I feel like you're talking to my heart.
Oh, well, I'm
Yeah.
glad. I'm glad if that's your experience.
You know, it's like, oh, this is a really kind mom who just really cares about everybody here. That's the feeling. It's just so nice. Like, oh, this is warm. Yeah, this is warmth and kindness.
Wow, I'm delighted if that's your experience, Colleen. I hope it's
It's
people's
true.
experience. I hope it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's inspiring to hear that because, someone for whom public speaking, doesn't come naturally or is a little bit of an obstacle, obviously you're able to kind of climb over that brick wall because you wanted to share and you're able to do it so effectively because of your good heart and your wish to share and help others.
Well, and what Venerable Geshe has given me, and what the teachings, and all the conditions that he's given me over the years have enabled me to do, I'm so deeply grateful for. I would, like I do many things that I would not choose to do in order to repay that kindness,
Yeah.
and to help, hopefully give other people the opportunity, an opportunity similar to what I've had. So I wouldn't do it otherwise.
Mm, yeah, it is amazing. I mean, not and as profound as teaching, but it's amazing how things that at home we're a bit grumbly about, like vacuuming. At the Dharma Center, we're like, can I
Yeah,
vacuum?
that's
Sure,
right.
I'll clean the toilets, no
Yeah,
problem. I'm all over the bathrooms. Like we're just happy to do it. Yeah, things that
yeah,
we
yeah.
normally just really wouldn't want to do.
No.
Yeah, it's amazing what having a good heart and really loving, something does. Was there anything that was like in terms of a teaching or a practice that you found difficult, that was, challenging, that you had to work through?
Well, the biggest challenge I had, and I think the thing that kind of really convinced me of the power of Dharma, um, was overcoming a very deep attachment that I had to having children. So I had two stepchildren who I loved very much, who I still love very much. they're very precious to me. But I really, really wanted my own children. And it was what I wanted all my life, like I grew up wanting to be a mum. That was my life ambition. And because of various situations, circumstances, that wasn't happening. And it was causing me a huge amount of mental pain. Like I was beside myself, making myself physically unwell because of the mental torment of wanting something so desperately and not being able to have it. And what I learned through Dharma was that happiness depends upon your state of your mind, not on external things. And that it is our attachment that causes so much mental pain in our lives. And I recognized that I had very strong attachment to the fulfillment of that wish to have my own children. And that if I wanted to not be in pain anymore, what I needed to do was deal with that attachment, like deal with that uncontrolled desire that I had. I had two gorgeous children part-time. I had many friends with children. I had many people I knew without children. And I could see that in and of themselves, children aren't a source of happiness. I mean, our love for them is, of course, you know, like the joy that we get comes from our love, from our seeing their extraordinary potential, seeing their successes, you know, rejoicing in all those things. It's all based in love. Like all the happiness comes from the mind of love, not from the people. No, even the little cute ones. And I also could see that, you know, my friends who had children, they weren't perfectly happy because of it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's many worries and concerns that, you know, come along with parenting, as you would know, being a mum yourself, you know. And I could also see that I had friends and people I knew who didn't have any children, and they weren't like miserable. You know, it wasn't like there was this massive hole in their lives. You know, they had full lives, they enjoyed their lives. And so I could see that it wasn't having or not having that was the problem. It was this attachment to the fulfillment of the wish to have that was really causing my pain. And so I decided that I would try to apply the teachings to deal with that attachment. And it took me quite a long time, probably best part of a couple of years, really, of really consistently working to oppose that strong attachment in my mind. And of course, gradually it was reducing, and eventually it actually went away. And if you'd have asked me before I started that process, will you be able to be happy and not have your own children? I would have said, no way, no way. I'm going to be miserable my whole life. And at the end of, I don't remember there being an end as such, but there just came a point where I thought, you know what? I'm fine either way.
Mm-hmm.
Having, not having, actually doesn't determine whether I'm happy or not. What determines that is what's happening in my mind. And I was happy. So I didn't end up having my own children. I have my two gorgeous stepchildren.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a lot of love for them, and for hopefully for quite a lot of other people as well, through this training.
And of course, there are, you know, so many students who view you as this incredibly kind mum, because just that's the feeling, you know, we get around you, and that's amazing. Like how many more people you're able to support and nurture, versus if you'd you know, done what you originally wanted to do.
So that was my biggest, I think, the biggest obstacle that I overcame. It was quite early on, but what it did is convince me of the power of dharma, because I thought if I can overcome that very powerful attachment and be at peace, then, and all I've done is change my mind, like literally anything is possible. Yeah.
That's pretty inspiring, Annie. That's an inspiring story to end on.
Well, it's a story I haven't ever told publicly.
Wow.
But I hope if you put it into the stories that it will be beneficial for people and for some people.
How could it not? Yeah. Whether it's children or something else, I mean, most people struggle with an unfulfilled wish, a very strong, very deep unfulfilled wish. And hearing from someone who worked through that and has built a very happy and fulfilling life and able to help so many other people.
Yeah, that's I'm very happy with my life, how it's turned out. delighted by it.
Mm. Could you have predicted this, Gennady, when you saw the notice board in the shop in the
No,
late 90s?
absolutely not. And if you'd asked me back then, would you ever consider being a Buddhist nun? I would have said, you must be joking. I couldn't think of anything more boring. But now it's like the best thing that ever happened. Yeah.
Oh, that's so nice. That's so wonderful. Yeah. I mean, I do feel too like discovering Dharma is the best thing that ever happened. Yeah, it's amazing. It just makes so many things possible, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for this conversation and for sharing something so inspiring. And thank you for being a resident teacher, Gennady.
Well, it's my great honour.
Mm.
That's Geshe's kindness giving me that opportunity. So, yeah, I deeply appreciate that.
Well, cutting back to Brisbane for a moment, is there anything happening at the centre in terms of, retreats or day courses or workshops coming up that we want to let people know about?
Well, I guess there's always lots going on. So I'd encourage people to look at the website and see what's going on. There's lots of workshops, and we have regular weekend away retreats. They're super popular, and we have a lot of fun. And yeah, they're just beautiful weekends away. So we'll have some more up on the website soon for next year. All of this year's are sold out. They sell out quite a long way in advance, but we'll definitely have some more lined up for next year. So I don't quite know when this is going to go to air, but I would strongly encourage people, come away for a weekend, really immerse yourself in Dharma. You'll get very well looked after. We have lovely like-minded people that you can chat to in beautiful surroundings here in Queensland. So yeah, very lovely. Come and join in with one of those.
And I can second those retreats. I haven't been myself, but I have a friend from Melbourne who went with her daughter last year to one of those mother-daughter trip, and they had a wonderful time.
Great. I'm delighted.
Well, again, Annie, thank you so much. I've loved this conversation. It's, again, the first time we've actually spoken, more than a couple of minutes, I think. So thank you very much. And just so inspiring. So thank you. And be seeing you soon at the Australian Festival, I hope.
Yes, I hope so too.
Yep. All right. Enjoy the rest of your weekend. Take care.
Thanks.
Lots of love.
Yeah, you have a great weekend too.
Okay, thanks.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.